What's going on, everybody, in the MMA universe? Kumite Radio is back with another episode. This time, I am joined by JJ Superman Ambrose. He has recently signed to Bellator, and he talks about how that came about. This guy, he's been around the region for a long time, fighting in Japan, Taiwan, Guam, Australia, all over the place, winning belts. Just recently, he won the PXC Lightweight Championship. Um, he talks about his experience going to the Middle East and fighting over there. He recently opened his own gym, Steel Athletics, and his team, Spike 22. They train there. He trains there. He's doing big things on the island, and he goes through his career and talks about the speed bumps and the good and the bad, and very, very articulate person. It was great to have a conversation with him. It flowed very well. I really enjoyed it. And I'm thinking that you guys will appreciate his thoughts and his viewpoints. So let's get into it. JJ Ambrose, Kumite Radio, episode number 25. Bitches. Kumite Radio. Today we have joining me is JJ Ambrose. How you doing, JJ?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Recently you announced at Hex Fight Series that you were signed by Bellator again. So can you tell us how that happened?
Yeah, so I've been in the talks with Sean Shelby and Mike Kogan for a while now. And it's always been kind of the same answer the last few years from both parties, just keep racking the wins up, get a good streak, and basically it came down about 3 weeks ago. Mike Hogan offered a really good contract. It was, almost double what I asked for. And I was kind of blown away, so I had to think about it for a little bit. I was like, is this too good to be true? And so obviously I signed on the dotted line. And, the biggest thing for me is being able to wear my own logo. I opened up a gym recently here on Guam. And I have to wear, my logo on my shorts. That's a real big deal to me, So it was kind of an easy choice.
So it came down to being able to have your own sponsors, and financially it was way better for you then, right?
Well, yeah, I've never been in this game for money or fame, because I've been broke since day one. I've never made any money in this thing, and fame's so fleeting. Anybody with an Instagram account and a half decent voice and boobs, famous. So it's never been about that. It's always been about testing myself in deeper waters. I've been fighting all around the world. And it's always been about competition. I love the competition.
Let's talk about fighting around the world, because when you look back at your career so far, and you're not even that old, but looking at your record and how many times you fought and everywhere you have fought, it seems like you've had so many experiences already. And it's almost like you're almost at the middle of your career right now.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. I started at a really young age where, back in 2005 when I was 18, I knew what I wanted to do right out the gate. I watched all the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, and I knew I had to go on my quest and become a kickboxer. That's what I knew that I wanted to do. I tried going to school. I maybe did half a semester in college, and it just wasn't for me. I couldn't focus. And so, I hopped on the local fight circuit, and pretty much the rest is history. Anytime an opportunity came up, I've always been kind of like a yes man, like the Jim Carrey movie. If there was an offer, I took it, it was stupid or not, bad decision or not, that led me down this path that I'm at. But, a few years ago, I got offered a few. It's been a while now. About 5 years ago, I moved to Thailand to train or to teach wrestling and learn Muay Thai. I mean, I've always been like, I'm always the first one to say yes when that kind of stuff comes up. And then fights in foreign countries. I mean, like when you live in the U.S., there's this stigma about the Middle East. Like, it's not safe for us over there. They don't like us. But, I got an offer to fight in Kuwait. And yeah, let's do it. Sounds great. So.
Yeah, talking about Kuwait, you've been out there a few times, not even just once. So
Right.
what were the kind of like a cultural, was there any cultural shock when you went over to Kuwait?
No, not at all. It's interesting. What you see on Fox News or any news outlet. It's never been like that for me. I've always felt very welcome and very at home. I've met some of my best friends while I was in the Middle East. So I have nothing bad to say about the people of Kuwait. Only that they're welcoming, and you shouldn't believe everything you see on the news.
All right. You've been to many countries throughout your career so far, but let's go back to going to like Taiwan. Since like you've been fighting in Asia for so long, and Guam is actually not really part of Asia, but kind of part of Asia.
Yeah,
Like it's like in between. So
right.
talk about Taiwan, your experiences over there.
Taiwan was really cool. It's interesting. He's like a DJ, so I mean, he's kind of a cool guy. He's got an MMA promotion. He runs his MMA promotion out of a club. We went there on 2 weeks' notice. Same kind of situation. My opponent pulled out last minute, so they got this other really young guy, very inexperienced, who I'll get to later. I can't remember his name offhand. He's now the
He's a
featherweight.
yeah.
He's the UFC champ now. I
Yeah.
was like, dude, that kid is a champ now. So I mean, like crazy, like how our paths wind and where we end up at the end. But that whole fight situation was awesome. Andrew Leone was our corner man for that fight. He's fighting for the ONE FC title coming up here pretty quick.
Yeah.
It was just a great experience. I don't know. I've always liked that kind of situation, though. I've never been one to say no because of last minute pullouts. Like my job as a fighter has always been to first of all make weight and then fight. So that's what I've always done.
Yeah, let's get to the never saying no, because the last PXC fight that you fought for the title, you never said no, because that in
So
that the opponent changed 3 times in a span of 2 weeks or so, right?
yeah, it was crazy. Because for me it's like a full-time job. I get up every morning, I go to the gym, I come home, make breakfast for my daughter, and then I go back to the gym and I do it all over again, over and over throughout the day. And so for me, like a fight cancellation is a really big deal because I take a lot of weeks to prepare for a fight. I know a lot of guys, they do the whole 6-week camp, but I feel like for me, it's a year-round thing. I don't take too much time off. Usually it's a few days after a fight. If I have any bruises, I let them heal. If not, I go back to the gym and get right back after it. So for me, there was no, you gotta find something for me. I don't care who it is. I don't care if I have to fight at 170 or if he weighs in at 170 and I weigh in at 155. I don't care. This is too big of a deal. It's for a belt. I've invested a lot of time and money into this. Can't pull out. Find me anybody. I don't care who it is. I'll fight a kangaroo. I don't care. And so they pitched one guy from Korea, and then a couple days later he pulls out because of the weight. And the next guy that came in, I don't remember his name at this point, but then they finally settled on a guy from Japan who realistically he fights as a featherweight, but he was walking around close to lightweight, so it worked out. But I mean, I don't get inflated egos about it. I'm real, like, cut to the chase. For sure, he was out of his league because of the weight class difference, and I've got a lot more fights than him. But at the end of the day, all I wanted to do was get a fight because I'm trying to build this momentum. My whole goal was to build enough momentum over the last year to get signed by Bellator or UFC. That was my goal.
Well, you accomplished your goal, by not saying no. I guess that's kind of your motto right now is don't say no. So if you
Yeah,
could give
yeah.
advice to anybody that's listening, that's a fighter that wants to get signed by Bellator or the UFC, is that the main goal? Is that the main key right there?
Well, no. The key is consistency because I see a lot of fighters who they punch in, and there's a difference. A lot of guys will tell you, you got to practice this many times a week, but that's not it. You actually have to be there. You have to be heavily involved and focused. And like it's really hard to describe the level of not just I forget dedication. Dedication is something else. It's just commitment. You have to commit to what you want to do, and get signed. So that's all I did. That's all I did for the last year. I almost missed my kid's birthday this year because of the fight stuff. Just I had to go on trips. I went to the Middle East. I went to Australia a few times. I sacrificed damn near everything for this. I don't party with my friends on the weekend. So it's not just not saying no. It's saying no to freaking everything, man. I mean, no, I cannot go to dinner with you. I'm cutting weight right now. No, I cannot go have a drink with you at the bar. No, I cannot miss practice today. That's the kind of, stuff you got to do.
So no days off then. Then, like you said, you have a daughter and you missed your daughter's birthday. So anybody that has a family, it must be extra hard for you to, miss those types of how do you deal with that as a parent?
Man, my wife's furious at me because I've missed my last 2 anniversaries, because I was abroad. And then, it's funny because when the holidays come around and, we got Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to have my meal prep because you guys are having turkey and mashed potatoes and all the good stuff. I'm just going to eat this tiny little bowl that I have prepared for myself, I don't know. It sucks. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. No one's gonna say, "Oh, I love that part," and they're lying if they do. No one likes to eat healthy. It sucks. I wish I could eat, McDonald's or whatever, pizza every day, but you just can't do it. There's a level. I've heard this thing that drives me crazy. Everything in moderation. Said no one great ever. Michael Jordan was taking days off, man. Greatness doesn't take days off, and that's what we're chasing here. If you tell your kids, like this drives me crazy sometimes when they say the whole moderation thing. Like, oh, you can just have one. Well, okay, maybe, but you're setting them up for failure, in my opinion. It's if you really have a dream and you really want to chase it with everything you have, then it's not everything in moderation. It's everything you got to pretty much push to the side and just set everything on that one thing. You have to be an extremist, to get what you want.
Is that kind of like how you, raise your daughter in that mindset?
And I wish I could say yes, but we'll probably go get Yogurtland later, she's still too young. She's 7 years old right now, so I can't even begin to imagine what she wants to do. One day she wants to be a pop star. The next day she wants to be a vet, with a bunch of animals around her. So we haven't really decided.
Yeah, I have a daughter too. She's 6 years old. So I know exactly what you mean. It's hard to, do anything at that age. You just got to let them be them, they're a kid, so.
Right. They're kids right now, but here's one thing I will do for her. When she does decide that she has this passion, that there's nothing else for her for the rest of her life, like this has to be it, then I'll do everything in my power to make that, come true,
Oh, yeah.
If she wants to be a singer, a pop star, I'll send her to Korea. Let's make you in the K-pop. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's the least you can do, like you kind of, you lived your life, that way where you chase your dreams. So you got to kind of, be able to support somebody in your family that wants to chase their dreams, right?
And that's what I'm hoping is that, like, I'm not necessarily forcing her to do anything, but at least she sees like the drive that I have. And, she understands that that's what it takes to get to the next level.
For sure. It's showing them, not just telling them, right?
Yeah, exactly. You could tell somebody, you know how it is. Somebody tells you what to do, it's not a big deal. But I mean, if you have your heart set on something, then nothing's going to stop you.
All right. Well, going back to Taiwan and that guy that you fought, right? Because he is the Road FC champion right now, and he hasn't lost in Road FC
I love it.
the
Oh, that
whole
makes me
time he's
so
been
good.
there. And you could kind of, that's kind of like a feather in your cap, right? Like, hey,
Absolutely. You always want, no matter which opponent, whether you lost or you won to your opponent, you always want them to go on to do great things, because that's just a testament to who you are. I beat the guy that beat everybody, so that's great.
Yeah, it's I think it's a huge win. When you look back at it, another thing that I was looking at is the Ultimate Fighter season 12, which is kind of like your first big opportunity. Am I correct?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I had this really big opportunity. My daughter had just been born. I remember getting off the plane at the airport. My dad lives in Vegas, and that's where they film it. And my dad met me at the airport before they came and picked me up, just to say goodbye, basically, because I was supposed to be away for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And my wife had written me this card. It had a Superman on it. I remember this, and I opened it up, and it said, "Take off your glasses, Kal-El." And man, the mental state that I was in right then and there, like I just started bawling. Man, I'm crying in front of hundreds of people surrounding me in the airport. For me, like I just wasn't mentally mature enough yet. I really wasn't. Some guys, I look at like guys like John Jones, and it's like they came out of the womb and they were already ready for what everything had to prepare them for. Me, I feel like I'm the opposite. I'm a late bloomer. I like you teach me something and 6 months later I'll start doing it. It's just the way it's taken me, 12 years since I started this fight game to where I'm at. Like I'm mentally comfortable. The last fight I had in Australia, and the guys are asking me if I'm nervous, and I'm like, no, I've done this 100 times. What else can you throw at me? I've had tons of grappling tournaments, wrestling matches, Muay Thai fights, MMA fights. It's like the nerves aren't the same anymore. Maybe have a little bit of performance anxiety, but I've been knocked down before. I've been submitted. I've been injured in the ring. What else can possibly happen to me? So I've got a really strong mental game now that I think is ready for the next level. Whereas 5-6 years ago, I wasn't ready, not even close.
Yeah, I think mentally, a lot of people physically they're there. It's just the mental aspect of doing everything properly and putting things together is what takes time. And like you said, John Jones is one of those freaks that they were just born and they didn't even have to train. They're just out there doing it like it's in their DNA or something.
That's what it is. For some reason, some of these guys, like a Conor McGregor type, who maybe they're not the most talented people out there, but they have their mental wits about them, and they're just so strong. They don't break, and before the fight even starts, they've already won. And I didn't have that until the last couple of years. I've always been one of those perfectionists in the sense, like I don't mean like perfect, but like if there's a way that I can get a advantage in a way, like if that means more training harder, for me, like it was a mental coach. I had to go talk to this guy named Scott Stevenson. He's like a sports psychiatrist, and he also deals with like war PTSD, like with the soldiers trying to reacclimate to civilian life. Man, apparently I had all kinds of flaws. I always thought that, well, if you're afraid of something, you probably should run away from it. That was kind of my whole thing. Like even when I was a little kid, I was afraid of the dark, and that carried over into being an adult. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a little personal, but that's kind of how, like the kind of stuff, so basically the exercise was, hey, go into a dark closet and turn the light off, So that's the kind of stuff I did. You have to chase after your fear. You can't run away from it. Otherwise you'll run away for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it seems like even guys that are new to the sport, they're even going to see these mental coaches. And you've already had more than 30 fights, and you're seeing a mental coach, but then there's guys I know that have only 3 professional fights and they're already seeing mental coaches. So
Well,
that means the sport of MMA is moving so fast to where guys that are so
yeah.
young are doing things that you're doing, and you've already been here for, more
Yeah,
than 10.
that's huge. That's one great thing about like the next generation is that they're always going to be better than us. They learn from all of our mistakes, and they go to the next level because of it. You think about like who the champions were over the last few years. You had a guy like GSP.
Mm.
We're watching his training like, oh, what the hell is that guy doing? Strength and conditioning. You mean he's not sparring to get in shape? Maybe
Yeah.
we should try this stuff. And now everyone's doing it. Everyone's doing strength and conditioning. If you check Instagram, everybody's on it. Everyone's doing battle ropes and flipping tires and hitting sledgehammers. That's just the way it is. That's the next level. So like the next level after that is the mental aspect. Like people are looking at guys like Conor McGregor who are winning fights before the fight starts, and they're like, oh, maybe I should get into that.
Definitely.
Crazy.
The Conor McGregor effect. It's
Yeah,
everywhere.
absolutely. I mean, if he had one good thing on the sport, it's that, like your mind better be strong. All he did was he took what Ali did back in the 70s, and he just expounded on it. So good for him.
All right, going back to your first run in Bellator, since you just got newly signed, your first run in Bellator, what did you get out of that first run? What did you learn? What can you explain?
Um, I can't say that I learned a whole lot. Again, the whole mentally ready, like I part of me wishes that I had never done the whole Bellator thing the first time around, because that whole yes man attitude didn't pay off, because yes, I'll fight Dave Rickles. I've never fought in front of that crowd before, but yes, I will, like that kind of stuff, just being like, there wasn't a fight I would have turned down, 5 years ago. Nowadays, maybe might think about it a little bit. But for me, like now, I know where I'm at. Back then, 5 years ago, I wasn't on the same level. And I don't mean physically, because I feel like physically, I'm probably the same person I was the last few years. But mentally, just everything has changed. And now I feel like I'm hitting my peak, so to speak, or I'm actually ready for what I'm about to do. Whereas before, I was probably in over my head.
What do you think about the state of Bellator now compared to because before it was the Bjorn Rebney Bellator, and now it's the Scott Coker Bellator.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you expect when you go in there now?
A little bit more professional, to be honest. I know there are some circus fights in Bellator. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Ken Shamrock, he probably should have been done fighting a while ago. Hoist Gracie as well. The guys are legends, but we know that they're not there anymore. So and like Tito Ortiz, he had his prime, 10 years ago. But on the other end, some of the champions, I really, really look up to like a guy like Michael Chandler. He just lost, obviously. We saw that. But I really look up to guys like him, where I feel like it's like a more grounded situation in Bellator. I don't know how to explain it, but like the level of professionalism is different. Where I think Scott Coker has been around for a long time, and he's not on the level that Dana is, in the sense that like it's a bit. There's one phrase that I've learned recently since opening my gym, and I can't stand this phrase. It's just business. When someone says it's just business, that usually means they're about to do something really jacked up. It's like, really, I'm stepping out of character right now, but it's just business. I can't stand that. And so Dana White, that's the kind of guy that says it's just business a lot. Like, hey, we're cutting you. It's just business, but we have to make room for the next guy on the roster. Whereas Scott Coker's not really that kind of guy. He's never struck me as like that. I've spoken to him many times, and his partner, Rich Chu, like, I don't feel like they say that, So that's what I like. That's what I think the difference will be.
I think that compared to before, Bellator now, they're building their divisions. Before it was just like they were just putting fights together and just picking up guys, signing guys, and making them fight each other. But now they're building up divisions. You see the welterweight division, the lightweight division starting to build up. You just joined the lightweight division. Even the like the what is it? The higher divisions, they're starting to build those up too. Trying to the light heavyweight division. You got Phil Davis and Ryan Bader just won. The title. To me, it's an exciting time for Bellator. Nowadays, you don't have to be in the UFC. You can go to Bellator and become a big name. Of course, it's not. You still need time, right, to be, I guess like a straight-on competitor with the UFC. But they're doing their job, and Scott Coker is a guy that you can trust, like you just told me.
Right.
You can trust him.
That's what's huge to me. There's a few things about Bellator, not having to wear Reebok, nothing wrong with Reebok, but I want to be able to wear different logos on my shorts, namely my gym name. I couldn't even put my gym name on if I was in UFC.
No.
That's a big deal to me, I want to give credit to where credit's due. And I don't mean I'm the product of my gym, but I'm the product of my team. It's an accumulative effort, on everybody's part at the gym. Like even the secretary at the front desk, the front desk chick, she plays a big part of my life. If anything goes wrong at the gym, she takes care of it so that I don't have to. That's huge. So when I put Steel Athletics on my shorts, I'm thanking every single person in that gym, not just my team and my training partners, that's a pretty big deal, where I'm from.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's go to Steel Athletics. How long has it been since you've opened Steel?
We opened up in February. Let me tell you, when I first got to Guam, I've been training with this team, Spike 22, since I came to Guam years ago. My wife brought me out here for one Christmas, and I trained with them, and I've been training with them ever since. Anytime I came to Island, I always went there. It was the right one. So when I first got back to Guam, they had moved to a kind of a funky location. It was in one of the guys' backyard, and by backyard I mean it's a slab of concrete, chain link fence, and we had about a 15 by 20 foot mat space, and there was a cage too. The weights are rusted because it's outside. It rains all the time, so our mat is super slippery. There's rusty nails everywhere. I mean, probably once a week my kid fell down and hurt herself. I mean, she's a little bit adventurous, whatever. But it basically for long term, it was not a good idea, Mm-hmm. So I got together with the founder, Melkor Manbusen, and I asked him, like, hey, I really want to build a gym. Let's do this. And he was like, yeah, let's go. And then, so, I went to the bank. I've never owned a business before, so it's kind of nuts. We went to the bank, like, how do I even go about getting a loan? The most expensive thing I ever bought was a car. So they gave us a loan by dumb luck, and, we started looking around at locations, and we ended up with this massive warehouse, and now we have like a state-of-the-art facility.
So crazy. Spike 22 is the team that trains inside of Steel Athletics then?
That's right.
So all the guys from Spike 22 are now with you in that gym? Okay. So you guys got a lot of monsters from Spike 22, that are training in there. You got, isn't Rocky Martinez going to fight?
Rocky Martinez, heavyweight. That guy is like one of the most pleasurable people I've ever had to train with. Man, you take a guy that's 250 pounds and he hits really, really hard. Like, I'm sure you've seen him fight. Mm-hmm. When he hits really hard and he takes really hard punches. So sometimes, like, I'll deck him as hard as I can, and I think, like, wow, that would drop most people. And he looks at me like nothing registers. You're just like, yeah, all right. Well, that's all I had. So we'll hit him in the body sometimes, and he'll raise his elbows up like this so we can do it again. And what's great about him is he's always nice to us. He never loses it, and tries to knock us out. Most of us are
Yeah,
smaller. So I mean, yeah,
of course. So originally you were in California when you started, right? Or were
that's
you
right.
in Vegas? In California?
California.
Okay. So now you said you went out to Guam with your wife one time and you trained with them. But what made you kind of like, hey, I'm gonna shift my whole life to Guam?
Um, oh, we were talking about it for about a year before we had moved. My daughter's a bit introverted, or not, extroverted. Sorry. Um, Always wants to be around people. Always wants to talk. Wants to get out of the house. Me and my wife are, I don't know, like cavemen. We'd rather just sit on the couch on the weekends, not do anything, be fat, like couch potatoes. But we're like, man, we can't do that to her. We have to get her around family and friends, and we gotta have her see the world. So we had talked about it, and then I lost a split decision to Frank Trevino. I don't know how. It was a really horrible decision, and it was like soul searching time. Like, all right, we need to change. Like that whole aspect. I need to change. Let's go to Guam. Done.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
your fighting career, like a loss, kind of guided
Oh man,
you to.
I felt like it derailed me so bad. Like I thought that was not the end of the road, but like, hey, we can't ever do that again. That was awful. So
So you guys are very. It seems like you're very happy there now since you've been there for a while.
man, this is every white guy's dream, to move to an island. So yeah, I love it. Every day I drive to the gym. It's about 4 miles away from the house, and
Oh shit! Did it cut out?
20 feet from the ocean. So it's hard to beat that.
For sure. Now with your gym, what are some you've had your gym since February, and it seems like you've already made your gym more famous on the like I don't even live on the island and I know about your gym already. So if I
Yeah.
ever go to Guam, I'll be going to your gym. How did you do that? Is it just you just was on social networking, or is somebody behind you like, hey, we need to
No,
pump this place up?
I have, honestly, this last year has been nothing but one big piece of dumb luck. I,
Hmm.
I don't know how else to say it, but like karma finally, like whatever good thing I did in the previous life, it finally paid off. Since I landed on Guam, I got the rematch with Frank Trevino, ended up submitting him. And then I'm on a 5-fight win streak, the bank loan thing, like all the stars have aligned, and then as far as getting members in, no idea why they come. I taught a couple classes, and this one, I did a whole week of classes for free. Like I just taught like my fitness classes
Mm.
that I have been doing for years. And this lady came in, trained with me once, and the next day she came in again, and she's like, "So how much for the year?" And I was like, "What? What? Are you serious? Why?" So like I don't know, like I don't know what I'm selling, but everyone's buying it.
So in on the island of Guam, what's the state of MMA like right now? It must be great because you're getting members in coming in to learn, martial arts. So how does it
I
feel?
would say jujitsu is big on Guam, not MMA necessarily. MMA was a lot bigger 7-8 years ago, but I think it's kind of on the decline. I think it's almost on the decline worldwide as far as people goes. Not necessarily. I just feel like there's less fighters nowadays. I feel like putting on a gi and doing jujitsu is like the thing to do now because it's still a martial art, but no one has to get punched in the face. So the majority of my members are not fighters. I have maybe 15, 20 fighters that are actively trying to fight in some way. Whereas I have like about 200 members that want to put a gi on and roll jujitsu and jujitsu only.
Well, that's
So,
great for you, right?
oh, it's amazing. I mean, man, I can't tell you enough how much I love the jujitsu community here. They got me putting on a kimono when I don't want to. I'll do it though.
Yeah, it seems like jujitsu is a little bit more addicting to a person than MMA would be.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to get hit in the face every day, then for sure. It takes a special kind of stupid to want to get hit in the face, you know?
Serious. Now talking about Guam PXC. But before we go to PXC, I want to talk about Hex, because
Yeah.
Hex has had 9 shows, but it seems
Yep.
like you've been part of Hex the whole time. Because you
Yeah.
were supposed to fight on their first show, right? But that got canceled, and
Yeah.
then you fought on their 4th show. What is your relationship with Hex?
Okay. Crazy story. I'm from America. I moved to Thailand to teach wrestling. My first experience with Australians was they're really loud and obnoxious. So this guy in my class, I couldn't stand him. I really couldn't. He was really loud and annoying and had the stupidest questions. They always say that there's no such thing as a stupid question. Well, I promise you, this guy was asking them. So after class, this guy goes, "Hey, can I buy some privates off of you?" Sure, you can buy some privates off me. So the next day he comes and he has a little notebook in his hand, and everything I say, he's taking notes, and it's driving me crazy, you know. And it ends up being like my best friend now, Trent James. He owns Hex Fight Series.
Yes.
But, you know, after that private with him, we went to lunch. We started talking. Turns out, you know, he's a lot cooler than I expected. He brought me to Australia for a seminar, and then, you know, a couple years ago, he said, "Hey, I'm going to start a fight promotion. I'm tired of all." He calls everyone dog, but not in the sense like "What's up, dog?" It's like "What's up, dog?" You know, like not a good thing. So he's like, "I'm tired of all these dogs screwing fighters. I want to start something." And, you know, I'm like, "Hey, sure, whatever." You know, like half-hearted. Yeah, awesome. Sounds in it. Suddenly he's throwing a fight promotion. And this fight promotion isn't small. He like threw every last dime he has into this thing, you know, and it's big. Like I'm looking at the production, I'm like, holy cow. And some of the names he got on, you know, like Stephen Kennedy, that guy's no slouch, you know. So I couldn't believe it. Like most guys like start small and grow into their business. He was like, "Here, have all my money, you know, let's do it." I love it. I love that whole gambling mentality, you know. So
Yeah, Trent has a good reputation with a lot of the people that I have talked to that are from Australia or have fought in Australia, and actually
yeah,
met Trent when he came to Korea
yeah.
for Battlefield.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he was supposed to do something with Battlefield, but you know that whole situation, what happened with
yeah,
that, it wasn't so
yeah,
great. But yes, I
yeah.
think Hex and Trent, they have a good thing going on, and having, you know, especially having fighters like you on fighting for them, it's, you know, it's only helping them. What do you think about Australia's MMA scene when you go over there?
It's really cool, and it kind of reminds me of how it blew up in the U.S. a couple, like maybe 5-6 years ago. It really like blew up, and that's what kind of reminds me. Like when I go, um, like let me tell you about the crowd. The crowd reminds me of Japan. They don't get crazy rowdy like the Americans do.
Uh,
Everything's kind of quiet, and I like that because I can hear my coaches. I think they're like it's new to them, but like the crowd is very respectful still. You know, like in America, it's like elbow, elbow, f that guy up. You know, and all right, but you know, I didn't hear any of that while I was there.
well, you know, when you go to like other countries and then you know, like maybe you might be cornering somebody, because I think I saw you when you came to Korea for Martinez's fight in Top FC.
Yes.
And
Yep.
you know, in Korea, they're kind of quiet also
Yes.
during the fights. But then you always hear one guy or two
Oh
guys.
my God, the American crew. It was the American crew in that crowd. They were so loud. You know, it's always, you always have to like cringe, like, oh, they're American, but we're not from the same place.
Exactly. But yeah,
Yeah,
you always hear the American guys because you know the accent. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
get off of him, get off of him.
I always hope they're Canadian.
Yeah, for real. Now with Hex, was it kind of bittersweet in your last fight with Hex?
Oh, no, I mean, it was kind of cool. Like, look, I called Trent up and I was like, hey man, Bellator sent me a contract, and he was ecstatic for me, you know. Um, that's all. He's always tried to push me, you know. He's always given me good advice, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't fight that guy, or you should definitely fight this guy. So he's always had my best interest, and I think a lot of times he has most fighters' best interest. You know, I have yet to hear about him uh, any dirty dealings, you know, with Hex. So he was like, well, so are you still gonna fight? And I was like, I don't know, it'd be pretty dumb if I did. If I lose, they're gonna cut the contract up. And he's like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then, you know, I later, and he's like, I was like, let's do it. Let's just fight anyway. So he was happy about that. Obviously, he's done a lot for me, so it was my kind of my way of like saying thanks. You know, still taking the fight.
Well,
And,
you took a pretty big risk, right? By
it was really dumb. I keep saying that. I didn't tell my wife that till after the fight, but yeah, it was really dumb. I mean, but I love fighting, and like I said in the promo video, you know, I'm 30 years old. 10 years from now, what the hell else am I gonna do? I love fighting. You know, that's why I fight. I love this sport.
did Bellator contact you after they saw that you fought? They
No,
didn't say
no.
anything.
I'm pretty sure they were just holding their breath and
Uh,
like just waiting for something stupid to happen. So yeah, I'm sure they weren't happy about that, but what can I do? You know, it's who I am. I like to fight.
Now, with your PXC lightweight title, you won that. It was vacant for a while.
Yep.
Now, I know the story, but I think some people that are listening to this, they don't know the story about that fight, which is, of course, we just talked about it earlier, like the opponents change, but during the actual fight, can you explain to them like what happened?
About getting sick?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, like crazy. You know, I've been sick a week before the fight, but I've never been sick the week of the fight. And my my wife and daughter had just come back from the Philippines, and they brought back like the Black Plague because I woke up. I remember waking up one night. My wife had coughed on me, and I was like, "Oh my God, no!" A few days later, like it was a Monday before the fight, and I can hardly breathe. I'm like, you know, and every time I cough, there's this phlegm coming out. Disgusting, you know, like the greenest bile you've ever seen. Well, anyway, I mean, I'm cutting weight and I feel like I'm having a heart attack, you know, but, um, you know, like it's a title fight, you know, you don't pull out, you can't pull out. And then, you know, the night of the fight, like I'm in the back warming up, and every couple minutes I like stop so I can hack up another lung. And then, you know, like it's just what we had to do though. You know, my trainers are like, well, I mean, just go out there and give it your best. But so when I fought, I was fighting very conservative. You know, I didn't go out there and leave it all out there, so to speak. I still ended up with submission victory, but I was playing very conservative for the first 3 rounds. And then after I won the first 3 rounds, I knew I had it. Um, I knew like in the fourth round I turned it up, and then that's when, of course, when I got the submission. So it was very relieving, but you know it was such a nightmare coming up to the fight, being that sick. You know, you always hear horror stories, and I kept thinking in the back of my mind that, you know, like you're about to derail your career again, dude. But I don't know, that I guess that's the risk you take.
Wow, and then the next fight after that was the Hex fight where you already had the
What
contract
can I say?
signed.
I like to gamble. I like let it ride, you know?
That is a pretty
Yeah.
crazy last couple of months that you've had, you know.
Yeah. Look, you don't have to say crazy. Just say dumb. I get it.
Now with PXC, you're part of like a long line of guys that have won the title, that have
Yeah.
fought for PXC, and that are moving on to, Bellator or the
Yeah.
UFC. How does it feel being a part of that?
No, it's cool. PXE has done such a good job of getting guys to the next level. They've never said like, "Hey, I want to compete with the UFC. Our show is the best show." it's always been we're the stepping stone to the UFC or Bellator. They've always said that, and they've done a great job of doing it. I mean, the list of fighters that have went on to go to the UFC or Bellator is huge. I mean, I can't say anything bad about them. I mean, they do it right. They know what they are, and they're okay with that.
Is there like when you sign a contract with PXC, is it like just one fight at a time, or how do they usually do it with you guys?
They do have one fight contracts, but for the most part, they want to promote you. So it's like 3 fights, they're not always exclusive. Sometimes they let guys fight outside of, because they understand people have to make a living. That's very important. Fighters can't survive on 3 fights 1 year. If that's all they're doing, it's hard. A couple grand here and a couple grand there isn't very much money to most Westerners anyway, and especially on Guam. Guam's expensive, so they understand. They let people fight outside, obviously, as long as they're not competitors.
Now, your future is with Bellator.
Yep.
Any word on when you will compete?
They offered me a fight at the end of July with, I think his name's Derek Campos. But yeah, he's really good. He's a contender. I obviously turned it down. In the last 3 fights, my hands have been jacked up. It's like my right hand's getting brittle with my old age, but I definitely need some time off. I got all kinds of aches and pains, and I feel like I have a couple holes in my game. After watching my last fight, I'm like, man, I need to work on some stuff. My boxing is putrid. So let's get it back up to par, because we're going to another level. It's a whole nother league. So I got to step it up.
So what do you think? When do you think you'll be back in the cage?
October is the timeline that I gave them. So
okay. So you're gonna try to go work on some stuff, heal some injuries.
Yes. I got tons of nagging injuries to get over. Like I said, I haven't taken any time off since I landed on Guam of January of last year. So I'm finally going to take a little break, and I love it. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, and then in the meantime, I'm watching lots of videos, and I'm flying in a coach to work on some boxing. And I actually flew in a Muay Thai coach to help Rocky Martinez with his fight that's coming up with Deep. So I'm gonna be working in with him this week.
So is that how you pronounce it, Rocky Martinez? Rocky. Yep. I've been pronouncing it wrong the whole time. I've been saying Rocky.
As long as you don't do it to his face.
Okay. Now I know that if I talk to him, I'm gonna say Rocky.
Yeah,
Rocky Martinez. Okay. He's another guy that's from the States that actually moved to Guam too, right?
Yeah, I think his family's originally from Guam, and I believe he's from Washington, and he moved over here. He's been over here for a long time though. He's been here since I first came.
Are you doing any coaching at your gym?
So I teach a lot of fitness classes. I teach kids jiu-jitsu sometimes, but realistically, I built this gym so that I could focus on my training. It's kind of selfish of me, but my biggest reason for this gym was for my training, and so that I didn't have to go off island to do training camps because I want to spend time with my family. Mm-hmm. So this gym was completely selfish of me. It just happened to benefit everybody.
Well, that's the best. That's the best then. It benefits you. You did it for yourself, but it benefits everybody around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure the guys miss the old spot in the backyard, but I know they love the gym.
I don't think so. I've seen pictures of that old spot in the backyard.
Oh man, I always felt like on a scale of Africa to 10, we were a 3. So, we made it work though. I made it my goal. I am not going off island for a training camp. I'm gonna stay here, Spike 22 until the wheels fall off. Sure. I feel like Team Alpha Male, aka all those guys, started somewhere, and that started with 2 guys saying, "Hey, we have fights coming up. We should train together," and they did it. So that's how teams start. And then the way teams grow is those 2 guys stay consistent, and they attract more people that want to do the same thing. So that's all I was doing. I wasn't abandoning anybody to go do a training camp off island.
For sure. Now, you're kind of hitting, you know, in your career or in your life, you're hitting like your second, kind of like your second gear in a way, right?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? You're hitting your second,
so.
Yeah, your second gear. Everything's hitting perfectly. You just got signed. Now, what are your goals? Not just in fighting, but like overall goals for the next 5 years.
Overall goals. I've always said that I want to take this as far as I possibly can. So, I mean, that's what I want to do. I want to see where I'm at. I want to test myself against these guys. You know, that whole quote, train or fight until your rivals or your idols become your rivals. And, you know, I'm looking at Michael Chandler now. Like, I want to fight that guy in a few fights. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I've been trying to do my whole career is I'm chasing these names. You know, I remember when I was 18 years old, I used to say, man, if I could just punch Matt Hughes one time, you know, that's all it would take. I didn't realize how stupid I was at the time, but, you know, but now I'm taking that same mentality, like, you know, like, hey, put me up against these guys. Let's see where we're at.
How does it feel now that you, like you said, when you were 18, you were like, I want to punch Matt Hughes, but now you're in a position where guys are kind of wanting to fight you. How does it feel to be that person?
That's like, you know, with all the trash talk on the internet, I don't have any haters. I have yet to see anybody really badmouth me because I hate to say it like this, but I'm very confrontational. And I like to think that I am a martial artist, but at the same time, I have no problem being like, hey, okay, let's go to my gym. We'll meet up right now. Like, I'm professional when I sign a contract, but I have no problem doing an in-house gym sparring session to prove a point. You know, so it's been interesting. I don't get called out very often. I got called out recently, about 6 months ago, by a Filipino guy who probably hasn't won a fight since 2012. So I couldn't really take that guy seriously, you know. But other than that, I mean, I'm in a good position. I'm happy with where I'm at.
Well, yeah, thank you for your time, JJ. It seems like you know, you're at the perfect moment almost in your career to just skyrocket. You know, you have your own gym going strong. Your team is there with you. Your family is there. What else?
Sir.
You know, what else do you need, right?
Yeah, you know what I need is I need some more training partners. So if you could send some of those guys from Korea or Japan, wherever.
Maybe you gotta call a Korean top team. Those guys are probably willing to come out there.
Coach Ha, yeah. You know, Coach Ha's a good guy. I always tell him, like, we go back and forth talking trash. Like, you know, Kwok, I really, like, Kwok came and visited us for the last PXC, and because he was cornering. And I told him, everyone ugly from your team, but Kwok very handsome. And Kwok lost in that last fight, and I wrote on there, too handsome. Very sorry, very sorry.
Well, you know, Kwok, he came out here in Korea saying that he doesn't want, because his nickname was Handsome.
Yeah, he's a freaking good-looking kid.
Yeah, and then he said that he doesn't want nobody calling him handsome anymore. A few months ago, he came out saying that, hey, I don't want to be known as the handsome guy. I want to be known as, you know, a fighter. I want to be known as somebody very skilled. And he wanted to get away from that name. And he was like, give me another name, but don't give me handsome. But it is what it is, right? If you're handsome, you're handsome. So
yeah, good-looking guy, for sure.
What can you do? All right, man. Thanks for your time, man. I know that you got your family thing going on. You got your gym, but you know, it was good talking to you. A lot of good insight, you know, and good luck to you in Bellator.
All right, thanks a lot.